Hi guys, how's it going? Or as we used to say in the 80s, how's it hanging? So, like the beach hair, kind of cray-cray. I know I don't look cute or anything, but the trip really wasn't about, getting my hair all nice and cute looking. So I'm on my way back to San Antonio, and I just wanted to share the experience with you. I had thought that I wasn't going to be able to get to the beach because when I got to Mustang Island, there was a constable waiting there, blocking the way, and I drove up, acting all coy, and so I said, "Sir, what's going on?" He said, "Well, it's closed." And I said, well, I just want to go in for 30 minutes. That's all, and I'll come right back out. He says to me, "Well, I can't let you do that." And I said, "Well, why not?" He says to me, "Well, the thing is that it's full. It's up to, it's full capacity. Do you happen to have a reservation?" I said, "No, sir, I don't." He said, "Okay, well, we can't even sell day passes for people that just want to come in and just, relax for the day and then leave. We definitely don't have," and I'm sorry for the shaking. I'm on a bridge. Sorry, guys, I'm on a bridge. So it's going to vibrate a lot. I just got this before I left on my trip because I wanted to be able to film. So anyway, so I said, "Okay, sir, no problem." I said, "So are there any beaches open at all?" This thing keeps going down because of the vibration. I said, "Do you know of any beaches that are open at all?" Because on the way up, I actually did see that it literally did say, "Guys, all the beaches are closed from the 3rd through the 7th of July. And so, I know that was a lie on my part, and I'm sorry for that, universe, for that white lie I told. But I really had an agenda, and my agenda was I'm going to the beach, and I'm getting my cleansing. So I said, "Oh, sir, oh no, well, it came, from such a far away, place, and I want it so badly to be able to get in, to the water. Do you, because you're from here, you got to know of some places, right?" And he says to me, "Well, actually, I do know, because another constable told me that Bob Miller Pier is open." I said, "Oh, really?" Because I knew about Bob Miller Pier, but I didn't want to go there because, well, usually it's filled to capacity. And so I said, "Okay, all right." And he gives me directions. I'm like, "Okay, well, thank you so much." And I tell him, "Don't tell anybody, okay? It's our secret." And he goes, "Too late. I've been telling everybody that's come through here that the city is allowing for Bob Miller Pier to be open and for people to go and spend their day there." I said, "Okay, well, thanks." And I left. So I drive over to, Bob Miller Pier, and all excited because, the beach is open. Nobody's wearing a mask. I'm the only one wearing a mask, and I feel like an imbecile because, of course, I'm the only one wearing a mask. So I did my thing, right? And I got my bag together to take to the beach, put my phone in there so I could film a little bit for you guys so you could see that it was to full capacity. And I put my shorts on over my bathing suit, and I put this It's actually for the water. And so I pull out my flip-flops. Sorry guys. I pull out my flip-flops and I'm like, okay, these are my good flip-flops. So they're staying in the car. And pulling out the flip-flops that are for the water, just in case, somebody runs off with them or whatever, because it's happened that people forget where they put their shoes and then they end up taking yours. And so I'm like, I'm all set, and I put Jeje inside my bag that I was going to take to the beach. And so I'm all happy, and I put my necklaces, which are actually, not called necklaces. This is part of when you become a santera, you're half seated or you're wholly seated. These are your collares, okay? And this is part of your initiation as a santera or santero, right? So I wore them in the water, even though I know that some of them are not part of the ocean or part of salt water, right? They're not part of that. Oshun, for example, is Sweetwater goddess. She's not part of the ocean. But I felt like I had them for so many years, and I felt like they needed some good positive energy, so I went ahead and just brought them with me. I'll take this off. Maybe it'll stop pulling it down towards the floor. Well, that didn't work. I thought that's what it was. I thought that this kept going down because of that, but it might be something else. And I'm driving, so it's dangerous. So anyway, I'm sorry for the vibration. So anyway, so I'm like, okay, well, I'm set. I got my collares on. I've got Jeje inside the bag, and I got my flip-flops on. I got my sunglasses, and I got my iPhone, so I can, share with you guys that I actually made it, right? I actually made it to the beach. Oh, and the other thing is, literally, it was like serendipitous. I pull over. This is driving me crazy that it keeps moving down. It wasn't doing this when I filmed before. So I'm going to pull over and fix this because all you can see is my lap. And so nonetheless, I'm sitting there and I'm like, hey, this is great. Sorry about that. So as I'm getting there, I'm arriving right before getting all the other gear that I'm gonna need while I'm sitting down at the beach itself. So I'm, getting everything geared up, and it was full to capacity. I'm not lying. It was filled to capacity, guys. And so literally what I did was as I was getting there, somebody was leaving. So I was like, sweet. I scored, the only parking space available. So that had already started happening in a positive way. So, okay, back to that. I'm already with my bag, right? And I'm walking to the beach, and I'm like, oh my God, there are so many people here that I was like, I'm gonna have to walk for a mile before I find, somewhere that I can sit and be comfortable and not feel like I'm encroaching on someone's space, or that they're in my space. And suddenly I found a space in between, some other folks, and it was far enough away from the other people to where I didn't feel like I was on top of them. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll put my bag here. I'll put my collares on so I can take them in the water with me. and I'm gonna walk with my statue into the water. And I obviously, at that point, I couldn't take the watermelon with me because most people don't understand rituals, right? So it would have looked like, okay, she came to the beach and she brought herself a watermelon, but no picnic basket or anything else. So that's not what it was for. So I didn't get to do that portion, which is sad to me, but the intention was there. So finally I put my shoes, far away from the water, and I go and I take my statue and I get in the water, and I'm like, oh man, these waves are beautiful, and they're just crashing into me and knocking me over. And I was like, oh my gosh, I lost my sunglasses and I had to dig for them. It was kind of funny, but thankfully I did find them. I found them, and and I was holding Yamaya, and I had her in one hand, I had the glasses in the other, and I was like, okay, the waves are breaking, hard to the point to where I'm gonna either lose her or I'm gonna lose the glasses, and I'd rather lose the glasses. But if truth be known, I need the sunglasses too, so I don't want to lose either one. So I put her between my legs, and I'm holding on with my thighs and putting the sand over her, because after all, she's considered to be the queen of the ocean, the queen of the seas. That's her domain. And so I even got water at one point. A wave, or two came over me and ended up hitting me in the face, and I swallowed water, went up my nose, and so that was a good cleansing, right? I mean, I got internally cleansed, and water, it went in my eyes. But you know what I noticed was that although the salt water, and I'm sure you can see it in my eyes, they're irritated because of the salt water, but you know that it's not the same as like when you're at home and you put water in the bathtub, do your cleansing with a salt bath, to where it irritates your eyes to a point to where you have to keep blinking, and then it takes you a minute and your eyes turn all red and you have to use Visine or something. I got over it pretty quickly, is what I'm saying, and it was amazing. But I don't know what it did to my hair, because my hair looks a little bit like, OMG, what is this a bad bob day going on here? But it was beautiful. It was I can't say my spirit feels totally light, because I'd be lying, but I do feel like I did have a good enough cleansing. I only stayed in for 30 minutes because really what I wanted to do, I wasn't able to. I mean, it was a full house, and so I went ahead and got in, and then I got out, and then while I was in there, I did my prayers and my affirmations. And the funny part was they gave me my revelation or aha moment about, for example, my marriage, my name. But what is the meaning behind me now having an Indian name, or a name from India, a surname? And they gave me a revelation about closure and responsibilities, and how it's even, how to explain this. So even if, let's say, a marriage that you're in, or a relationship that's a significant other, and your relationship ends, right? Even though, let's say, you were not responsible, and this is for my cross watchers too, so you need to pay attention. Even if you didn't do anything to end that relationship or to ruin the relationship, you maybe didn't walk away, you still have responsibility towards the relationship. And what I was told was, it's like if you're watching a car accident, it's your responsibility. And oh my God, speaking of a car accident, there's a truck that is fully turned over, and there's police and a fire truck there. That was kind of weird. Just as I was saying that, that's what I'm seeing, and I can still see it in the rearview mirror. I don't know how that happened. It was fully turned over. It's still your responsibility. Like, for example, me seeing that, and if there were no cops there already, it would be my responsibility, for example, to stop and help, to try to render help, right? And I know a lot of people nowadays, even professionals, are scared to render help because, I'm sorry, I'm going over a bridge again, because when you're performing, for example, CPR on someone, you could break their ribs if you're doing it right. And it doesn't always happen, but sometimes because of such pressure, the compression, when you're trying to get that heart to start again and you're doing the breaths and whatnot, you can literally break somebody's ribs. And you're not trying to hurt them, you're trying to help them, but it does happen from time to time. So, for instance, that's why they now have what's called the Good Samaritan law that covers people that stop and render aid. Because for a minute there, people were like, I'm not stopping. So that's a good example of responsibility, right? And accepting responsibility. Also, I was listening to Sadhguru, which he's a favorite of mine right now. And he was asking, he asked one of his students that was at his class for engineering that I've been taking online now, I've been talking about. And he said, responsibility, how do you look at responsibility? If there's fighting going on outside, are you responsible? And of course, the first thing as a human being, the logic that we have is, my goodness, my hair is cray-cray looking. Is no, that's not my responsibility. I didn't start the fight or argument, or I don't even know those people. So it's not my responsibility. But what you're really trying to say is it's none of my business and I don't know those people. But he said it is your responsibility. And the reason he gave was that you can do something, you can pray. You can pray for those people so that they can maybe see, try to see each other's point of views, that they would calm down, that the energy would die down. He was also saying, oh my goodness. What I'm having to learn right now is to learn to be patient with people that do things like this truck that's in front of me. I had just pulled onto the other side and I was about to speed up. And then he decided to go ahead and change lanes without even giving a care about that I was already on the lane. So patience is something that I'm having to deal with right now, lesson-wise. So anyway, back to the other thing. So he was asking this student, he said, are you married? And he says, yes. Where's your wife? He said, oh, she's back home. Where's home? Oh, it's 180 kilometers away. Well, that's far away. What are you doing here? And why isn't she here with you? And the man said, well, she's at home and I'm here to take your class. And he said, okay, well, so are you responsible for your wife? And the man looks at him and he says, yes. He said, did you get me? And he goes, what do you mean? And he said, well, she's 180 kilometers away. That's 100 miles away. So she's not in front of you. Does that mean you're not responsible for her? And he says, no. He said, no, you're not responsible for her, or no, you are responsible for her. And he said, no, I'm responsible for her. He said, okay, if she's 1,000 miles away and you don't know what she's doing, but she's your wife, are you responsible for her? The man said, well, yes. Well, what if she's across the world? She's not 1,000 miles away. She's not 180 kilometers away. Are you still responsible for anything that happens to her, her well-being, or her happiness, or what she's thinking or going through right now? And he said, well, yes, I would say yes, I am. And Sadhguru said, well, why? He said, because she's my wife. And Sadhguru says, well, then that must mean that you have an understanding that you chose to be responsible for her regardless of where she is, because of the care that you have for her. And he says, so if you would have replied no, I would have said, well, then you don't care for her and you don't feel responsible. That means that it's too much effort for you to want to be responsible or to take responsibility for her and her well-being. And that's why I was asking you all these questions. He said, you passed the test. He's very funny when he wants to be. He says, so you passed the test. He said, because if you would have said, no, I'm not responsible for her. She's responsible for her own well-being and her own safety and her own self because I'm not there. He said, then that would have been the wrong answer. He said, now, I'm going to ask you a question. He said, are you responsible to, let's say she's sick. Are you responsible to make her well? He said, let me make it simple for you. No, because one, you're not God, and one, you're not a doctor. He said, but the intention is there. You care enough to want to be responsible to get her care, so you ask, is there somebody that can help you, or do you need to go to a doctor, or do you need to see a doctor, or do you need someone to call you an ambulance? That's responsibility, he said. You're not responsible for her wellness because you're not a doctor, you can't cure her. But you are responsible for trying to find a way for her to be well. He said, and that's what responsibility. Just like your neighbors were fighting outside, you're not responsible for the argument. You're not responsible because you weren't part of the argument, but you're responsible to find a way to make it safe. Perhaps you have to call the police. Perhaps you have to try to figure out what's going on so it doesn't happen again, he said. He said, that's what responsibility, that's what I'm calling responsibility. He said, he said, everybody that's on the planet is responsible for everybody else's well-being. And I can understand what he means. Straws even, right? Straws even. They've been talking about straws, like doing away with plastic straws, because the oceans are riddled already, even the rivers and streams, with plastic bottles, And for the lack of responsibility of foresight on our part, because we want convenience, we take plastics to our picnics and our water parks and our rivers, and then they end up floating into the ocean, or even on barges, they are literally dropped into the ocean. But because plastic floats, they become these islands. And then I'm taking the long way home. I just realized I'm going through downtown San Antonio. It's okay. So his point is that for lack of responsibility or taking responsibility, then here we go creating, issues for another species, namely the animals that get entangled in these plastics that are like, those 6-packs. They have those rings and whatnot, and some animals get stuck in those, and then they end up having to be cut out of those plastics. And so he was stating things like that. So it was an interesting concept, or it was an interesting lesson that we might see a car accident like I saw. And thankfully, the police were there, and there was a fire engine. It wasn't even a car. It was a oversized, like a trailer. It's weird. Big red oversized trailer, but nonetheless, there could have been someone trapped underneath, right? So we are responsible. To a certain extent, we are responsible to humanity in general, because everything we do has repercussions, our carbon footprint, right? I'm guilty of that. I'm a dollar store freak, guys, and so I'm guilty of that. That we go to the Dollar Tree and everything's literally 99 cents or $1, and we go crazy. We buy things that we don't need. We buy things that cost $1, so we think it's okay to take it home. And then we have so many things at home that we ended up giving them to Goodwill, right? So we're not good stewards of our monies. But the point is responsibility. We have to be responsible in many different ways. There's many aspects of being a responsible person. I have to be responsible to this car. I have to be responsible to its maintenance. For example, if I don't have an oil change, it's not going to work right. If I don't put gas in it, it's not going to go. If I don't have good tires on it, then probably won't move it, because without a tire, you're not going anywhere. I have to clean it up, especially since I just got sand in it. Didn't mean to, but everybody knows if you go to the beach, there's sand that's going to be all over the place. And you're going to be responsible later to vacuum that up and wash it off the outside as well, so that it doesn't rust. So there's different ways of being responsible. And I just thought that was very interesting. I just thought it was really interesting the way that he put it. And I started thinking about my responsibilities while I was in the water, and how I have to be responsible for my own happiness, how I have to love myself, be responsible enough to love myself as much as I love other people. I have to be responsible to want for myself the same beautiful things that I want for other people. And I have to be responsible enough to understand that if for example, if I'm in a relationship and it doesn't work out, then I have to be responsible enough to release that relationship and thank God for it, right? Thank God is for it, for whatever lesson, life lesson it brought with it, and then release it so that someone else or another experience or something better or something different can come. And the other thing that it taught me not only the lesson, but the water as I was being cleansed was that, sorry guys, another bridge, but I'm in San Antonio now, so I'm good to go. I'm not responsible for somebody's bad behavior, but I'm responsible to find out what's causing that bad behavior if they want to share.